Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tacoma Cyclist. I am Tacoma Cyclist, and with me today is a guest star, mostly because it feels like he hasn't been around in a while, the Boogeyman.
Hey.
Now, a lot of you have picked on the Boogeyman in comments, saying that he scares you or he's got dead eyes. He should scare you. Be afraid. But in all seriousness, he just doesn't like to be on video. This is a whole way that we can get together and just have some fun and talk about racing and crap. So, to all you haters, shut up. Okay, let's jump in here. Actually, the Boogeyman and I are going to talk through this. This is not me racing. This is him racing. And this particular race is... Do you remember the name of this race? Tour of America's Dairyland. I think the Boogeyman just had a brain fart. And this particular stage of the race was...
Called the Milwaukee Mile.
Milwaukee Mile. So, yeah, it's a closed race circuit. And what you're seeing here is which categories?
The men's Cat 2-3, the junior 15-16 Cat 2-3s, and the junior 17-18 Cat 2-3.
Yeah. Now, in this field today, it's just the juniors. They didn't bring the men in until tomorrow's race. Interestingly, I think we'll see very clearly that the juniors actually race better than the men's 2-3. Much more predictably, faster, smoother. The men's 2-3 were really not that good. Well, I don't mean to sound mean. Their field size was what, 80-some people?
Yeah, in total 84 people.
84 people when you combine with the juniors, and it was just messy. A couple big teams that we're seeing here in this race are Lux, and then there's a few other regional teams, but that's kind of a national level development team, and those guys are pretty darn fast. So why don't you talk us through the course here a little bit, Boogeyman, and tell us a little bit about the day itself.
It was a little bit toasty. I think it was about 85 degrees, maybe.
It was pretty warm. It might even be hot. It might have been hotter than that, even.
It wasn't very windy, though.
Yeah.
The course was wide open, as it was a racetrack. It's pretty easy. This corner right here was the hardest corner, for sure. It got a lot tighter at the end of the corner, which made it hard.
Yeah, and for some reason, I just saw the gauge drop down to like 5 miles per hour. Bear in mind, sometimes these gauges, I don't know what they're reading, but that certainly wasn't 5 miles per hour. All right, what's happening here?
So somebody goes off the front chasing someone else, I think, if I remember correctly, and I went to go...
No, I think that was a solo break just then.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But Lux is setting themselves up. I was watching from the sidelines here, so I got a pretty good view of it too. But Lux is setting themselves up, and they did that this entire crit series, didn't they? They set themselves up, and they always went off the front. And I think Lux won every single race that they were in by doing that tactic. But yeah, you started to chase that guy, and Lux, who had the numbers. How many people did they have in this race?
5, 6, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was more than that. I think it was 6 at least, maybe more. And they're really heavy hitters. So... yeah, so you set them up, but really it's kind of on them to do the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speeds on this course were pretty flippin' fast. Anybody that's like, oh, well, it's just the juniors. Yeah, take a look at this. They're cruising at 35 miles an hour right now, and this is a flat course. We left the cadence in there. What kind of cadence do you normally do in a race like this?
At this speed, probably 120 RPM, and it wouldn't be abnormal.
Yeah, I mean, you're not putting out a lot of power right now. So 112 RPM, 113 RPM, and you're doing 260 watts. So if you really wanted to put out more watts, and you're probably spun out. You're, well, maybe not spun out, but you're probably in one of your upper gears. And your heart rate's definitely up there. What about your max heart rate? What do you typically see as like a max heart rate for yourself?
If I start getting above 221, I'm pretty much toast.
Yeah. But you can hang around 200 to 210 all day long, right?
Mm-hmm.
He kind of gets that from me. I have a really fast heart rate, but also a really low resting heart rate, so it's kind of a weird combination. But we can both go above 200. He can go well into the 220s. So you can see people are really starting to organize that chase. This is a field. This is definitely a course for breakaways, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it would stretch out. Corners were occasionally a little tricky, especially at higher speeds. They can be a little tight there. What do you think about the safety of this type of race overall? Like this particular race with the juniors only.
It was definitely the safest race of the week. Overall, everyone raced pretty well. I didn't really see anything too sketchy. Everyone just seemed like they knew what they were doing, which is to be expected out of the Cat 2.3s.
Yeah, definitely. And really, these guys are racing Cat 2.3s, but at the same time, some of these juniors are going up against people like Legion and stuff. So, and winning sometimes. So even though it's Cat 2.3s, they're sitting on the upper end of their Cat 2s. Boogeyman's now a Cat 2. Well, he has enough points for a Cat 2, but will be a Cat 2 very shortly. You've got, 40-some points now towards...
I think, mid-50s, actually.
Mid-50s, and you only need 30 to upgrade. So, yeah, I think you got enough points to get up there. So, very fast races, relatively smooth, relatively clean. I think there was only one wreck in this race. And it was a solo wreck. I think somebody bumped a wheel and went off, and the kid raced the next day. He was fine.
Actually, I think there might have been a mid-pack wreck, but it was only 3 or 4 people.
Yeah. And, very little mechanicals just because you're on a flat course that's closed. So not a whole lot of flats. Unfortunately, your teammate did flat out. You'll see his teammate through this race. And, in fact, we have a video where his teammate gets in a wreck, unfortunately. Not in this crit, but later on. Okay, so what about this finishing straight? Anything, were there side winds, were there headwinds? What was the kind of strategy going in here?
The stadiums the stands actually kind of blocked the wind, so there wasn't much wind. But it was quite a long finishing straight, so you had to really hold your sprint until just the very end.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at the sprint at the end here. Again, these are juniors on restricted gearing, so the maximum gear that these guys can run is a 52.14. And you'll see the speeds they get towards the end there. So we're going to fast forward here in just a second. We're going to move a little bit ahead in the race. You can see things are starting to calm down, and bam, as soon as things start to calm down a little bit, that's going to happen every single time. Lux is going to go off the front. Somebody's going to go off the front, but in this case it was Lux because they know how to do that. So let's fast forward here. I think the Boogeyman's going to try to chase this down, and we'll see if we can watch that. Okay, so same attack, and you're going to see the Boogeyman attempt to bridge here. So talk us through what you're trying to accomplish here. Look at that, 960 watts to create that separation, 130 RPM. That's a pretty good jump there. I mean, you're doing 35 miles an hour coming into that corner. And now, after doing almost 1,000 watt effort, you're sitting there holding 500, 600, 700 watts, almost 800. What's kind of going through your head right here?
I just figure I want to be open and break with Lux. If I can get there and there's 5, 6 other Lux guys back in the pack, that break should be really successful.
What's the challenge when you go for a break like this, or when you go to bridge up to a break like this? What do you think is some of the biggest challenge?
If you don't go hard enough, the whole pack will just follow you.
Yeah, definitely. And, I don't think Lux is interested in working with you to bridge that gap, right?
No, not really.
They're guys off the front. So, the people behind you are going to do one of two things. If you're trying to bridge and you don't bridge hard enough, like you said, they're just going to come back on. What I see here is that a couple guys probably thought you were dangerous, so they marked you, moved up with you.
Mm-hmm. It looks like I see one Lux guy and another guy.
Yeah, so there's 2 total Lux guys off the front and one other guy, and now the rest of the pack is closing behind you. So you did a great job bridging, and even at the power and speed you were holding, there's only so much you can do to keep off a fighting pack. So, spoiler alert, these 3 guys, the one guy that bridged up with Lux and then the other 2 Lux guys, they actually start to create more separation. So it's almost a shame you didn't get into that break. It's a bummer. it's a calculated move though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to make that attack to get into it, and sometimes you make the attack, you get 80% the way there, and then somebody comes over top of you, and you're like spent, right? So another thing, that's the cow print jersey. This is the Tour of America's Dairyland, even though the Boogeyman forgot the name of the race there. The cow print jersey is the leader's jersey, and a little bit of a spoiler alert, Boogeyman goes into the cow print jersey at the end of this race for his field, so happy for him on that one. Super, super awesome to get starting off in a race like this in the cow print. There was a TT early in the day, right?
Yep.
So this was the second time you were on this course, and you had already gotten to see how this course plays out. And your TT time was actually quite respectable, and your power was quite good. So to come back and hammer it out again for an hour on a crit can be kind of tough. All right, let's cut ahead a little bit to some more stuff. In the interest of keeping this video not too terribly long, we'll talk about one other breakaway here and watch some bridge efforts to that. There's two guys off the front. There were three, but one of them got brought back in, right? He couldn't keep at the pace that the two Lux guys were holding. But we've seen that another small pack has gone off the front here, and that's really dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what's going through your head right now?
I saw that no one else was really chasing. It was just these two guys right here.
They've been off for a bit now, right? They've been off for like 30 seconds, and nobody's going, right?
Mm-hmm.
This guy in the polka dot, he's definitely he wants to get up there because his jersey's at stake, right?
Yeah.
So, and he's the race leader for the 17-18s, not for the 15-16s. Boogeyman's just turned 16, so he's still in the 15-16 category. But yeah, so sorry, talk me through what's going on here.
So I saw them going up to the bridge, which I obviously wanted to be in because that's good. No one else is really pulling, so I had to pull on my own. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten up there, and it just would have been a two-person break, and then however many people is in that pack up there.
Which is too many, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's enough to alter the placements.
Yeah.
And the guys that you were with really weren't pulling that much. You were doing 120 watts behind them.
Yeah, they weren't pulling, and they were doing maybe 10-second pulls. I would get up there, do maybe 300 watts, or I guess right now 270, and then I'd pull off, and then they just kind of slow back down.
Yeah, so that doesn't help at all. And you really, you want to get through the corner when you're chasing this stuff as quickly as possible. That's oftentimes how you can make up the distance, right? When these guys are coming through the corners, they may slow down a touch, but if you're solo or on the front, you might be able to bridge that up. So it now looks like these guys are a little bit more interested in working.
Except this guy.
Right. So again, spoiler alert, they bring this back. That pack does not stay away. We're going to cut to about 1 to go and then talk through the final lap of this race. Okay, so we're moving into the final lap there, and pardon that little editing glitch. Apparently I didn't get the two videos snapped together, so my bad. Final lap here. Boogeyman's just going to talk you through what's going on. The whole field they're back together, right? Other than the two that are off the front.
Lux is still pretty much dominating the pace, though,
keeping
their two guys off the front.
Yeah, so they're more controlling the pace, but at the same time, you guys are dipping to a low speed of 25 miles an hour. So, 24. Ooh. But yeah, I mean, really, people are using whatever road is available to them to move up, right?
Yep. Oh, and actually, I got pushed off into the grass up here in just a few seconds, I think.
On the final lap?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you're taking a far outside line there. So, people always take bigger risks in the final lap, right? I mean, we see a couple people go into the grass throughout this race. But overall, it looks like you guys are just... Oh, hey.
Yep,
look at that.
right here.
Nice.
And that guy almost lost it.
Yeah. Like you said, it's the final lap. People take risks to get places, and now people are fighting for third place. Although the two people that are off the front are in the 17-18 group, so you'd be fighting for first place overall. From a spectator's perspective, I can tell you that this race did split. There were quite a few people behind the split, but there were still like 50 people in this race of juniors, and probably 30 of them, 35 of them were in this main group. So how important is placement right here? I mean, you're only about halfway through the lap, not even halfway through the lap. On this course, how important was placement coming into this?
Right here is actually where I make up a lot of my position. Before this, I mean...
It's a pretty wide course, right?
Yeah, it's important, but you have plenty of opportunities to make up position.
Yeah, there's not a lot of wind. You're really sheltered from the wind. The course is wide, so it's really all about power. If you need to make up space, it's just you gotta drop the watt bombs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this corner is delightful. Super reducing radius turn. It doesn't look that bad to start, but then you can see, these kids are getting into a pretty decent lean there. I don't imagine anybody really pedaled through that turn.
No.
All right, so this is where people are really going to start fighting for position. Is it really important in this case to be towards the very, very front coming out of that last turn before the finish?
I would say if you're in the top 5 wheels, that's probably too close to the front.
Yeah, because it's deceptively long, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, once you turn that corner, coming up here in just a second, the finishing straight is down the left side of that map there. Once you turn that corner, it's like 500-600 meters. It's not 200.
Yeah, if I had a full lead out, I'd probably want to be 5th coming into this corner.
Yeah.
I actually made up quite a bit of position right here, though.
Yeah, and really, most of the people that you see, there's only one person up the front here that is in your field. The rest of these guys are 17, 18-year-olds. You're putting out a decent sprint there, 35, 36 miles an hour, 128 RPM, 130. I saw 132 RPM, and you finished with that lead pack there. So I don't know. What do you think about this race? Did you enjoy this particular one? What did you think about the racers that you raced with and the organization of this?
This was definitely my favorite race. Not as many people as the other day, just because it's only juniors. I thought it was a lot safer.
Yeah,
and it was just a lot more predictable.
From both of our perspectives, Tour of America's Dairyland, very well organized, and we're super happy to go back next year. All right, stay tuned. We've got more videos coming from Toad, or Tour of America's Dairyland, coming up soon. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button and subscribe. Thanks.